Imagine being betrayed by the people who should love you, sold as a slave, and thrown into a prison unfairly. It sounds like a movie script, but that was Joseph's reality. A young dreamer who left the bottom of the well to become the most powerful man in Egypt after Pharaoh. But how did he get pain into triumph? What was the secret that led him from slavery to power? The answer lies in your unshakable faith and your ability to see beyond circumstances. And at the end of this story, you will realize that even the worst moments of life can be part of a larger plan. So get ready for a journey full of betrayal, overcoming, and redemption. You will find out how Joseph used his gifts to change his life and save an entire nation. What's more, this story can bring valuable lessons to your life today. Curious to know how it all happened? So let's start. Joseph was Jacob's favorite son, and that aroused envy in his brothers. They couldn't stand the idea of seeing him dreaming of a great future and decided to get rid of him. First, they threw it into a cistern. Then, taken by greed, sold him as a slave for 20 pieces of silver. Imagine the shock of Joseph, who went from beloved child to goods in the blink of an eye. Your destination? Egypt, where it was bought by Potiphar, a Pharaoh's trust officer. Even as a slave, Joseph did not give himself to despair. He maintained his faith and dedication, gaining the confidence of Potiphar. His new lord saw that everything he did thrived and put him as responsible for his home. But as we will see below, Joseph's luck was about to turn again. He would still face proof that could destroy anyone, but that, in his case, would only reinforce his purpose. From a young age, Joseph had intriguing dreams. In one of them, he saw beams of wheat curving before his, and in another, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars leaned before him. The message was clear: one day, he would rule over his family. But instead of celebration, your dreams generated even more envy. His brothers could not stand the idea that he could be superior to them and began to nourish growing hatred. For them, Joseph was just an arrogant young man with illusions of greatness. What they didn't know was that those dreams were not just daydreams, but revelations of the future. Joseph had no idea how everything would happen, but his faith made him believe that there was a greater purpose behind everything. However, before reaching power, he would face more challenges. Life still reserved a harsh trial, where his integrity would be put to the test in a cruel and unfair way. Joseph became a trusted man in Potiphar's house, and everything seemed to be doing well. But his lord's wife put her eyes on him and tried to seduce him. Joseph, faithful to God and his character, refused his thrusts. However, the rejection hurt the pride of the woman, who, moved by the spite, created a terrible lie. Joseph falsely accused of trying to attack her. With no right of defense, he was thrown into prison, once again wronged by life. Even behind the bars, Jose did not give himself to despair. He kept his faith and continued to act wisely. He soon gained the jailer's confidence and was placed to manage the prisoners. His leadership capacity stood out even at the darker moments. What seemed to be another blow to fate was actually part of the way to something much bigger. In prison, he would receive the opportunity that would change his life forever. In prison, Joseph met two Pharaoh officers, the cope and the baker, who had been thrown there for displeasing his lord. One day, both had enigmatic dreams and were distressed not to know the meaning. Joseph, with his gift given by God, interpreted dreams. He revealed that the cope would be restored to his position, while the baker would face a tragic destination. And, as expected, it all happened exactly as Joseph had said. Before the cope was released, Joseph made a simple request to him to remember him when he was before Pharaoh. But once free, the man completely forgotten the favor, leaving Joseph in prison for 2 more years. It looked more like a closed door, but the truth is that the wait was part of something much bigger. The right time for his rise was yet to come, and when he arrived, nothing could stop him. 2 years passed, until Pharaoh had disturbing dreams that no one could interpret. It was then that the cope remembered Joseph and mentioned his gift to the king. Called in a hurry, Joseph listened closely to Pharaoh's dreams and, wisely, revealed its meaning. Egypt would go through 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of devastating hunger. But he not only interpreted dreams, he also presented a solution to save the nation. Impressed by Joseph's intelligence and discernment, Pharaoh did something unexpected. He named him governor of Egypt, making him the second most powerful man in the kingdom. Now that young man who was once sold as a slave commanded the whole land, organizing resources to face the crisis that would come. His gift, before reason of envy, now saved an entire nation. But what Joseph did not imagine was that his new position would lead him to an unexpected reunion with his past. The years of abundance passed, and hunger hit Egypt and neighboring lands. Desperate for food, Joseph's brothers traveled there in search of groceries, not knowing that the governor they would ask for help was precisely the one who had sold as a slave. They bowed before him, without recognizing him, confirming the view that Joseph had years earlier. He watched them in silence, fighting a flood of emotions and memories of the past. Before revealing his identity, Joseph decided to test them to see if they had changed. He put them in difficult situations to evaluate his character, especially in relation to his younger brother, Benjamin. Gradually, he realized that something had changed in their hearts. Now, did he face a dilemma to take revenge from the past or offer forgiveness? His decision would show not only his maturity, but also his understanding of the divine purpose behind his entire trajectory. The moment of revelation finally arrived. Joseph, taken by emotion, could no longer contain the tears and said to his brothers, "It's me, Joseph, the brother you sold to Egypt." The shock was immediate. His brothers were paralyzed, waiting for the worst. But instead of revenge, Joseph chose forgiveness. He saw something bigger behind everything. God had turned his pain into purpose, using his story to save many lives. In an act of reconciliation, Joseph called his family to live in Egypt, ensuring that they would not be hungry. The one who was betrayed and humiliated now was the savior of his own home. His journey, marked by suffering and overcoming, proved that even the worst situations can be part of a divine plan. But Joseph's story doesn't end here. His leadership in Egypt not only saved his family, but prepared the way for something even greater in the future. Joseph not only saved Egypt and his family from hunger, but also established a legacy of faith, forgiveness, and leadership. His government brought prosperity to the kingdom, and the Israelites began to live safely in the land of Goshen. What began as a personal tragedy became a powerful testimony of how God can use until the worst circumstances to fulfill his plans. But Joseph's story was not just about him. His journey prepared the way to the future exodus of the Israelites. Centuries later, his offspring would face new challenges, but the memory of the God who turned a slave into a governor would remain alive. Joseph teaches us that even when everything seems lost, divine providence is in action. What looks like an end can actually be the beginning of something much bigger. Joseph's story teaches us that no pain is in vain. Even in the face of betrayal, injustice, and prison, he never lost faith. His gift, which at first was a source of envy, became the key to his ascension. And his greatest victory was not the throne of Egypt, but his ability to forgive and see God's hand in everything. And now, I ask you, what challenges are you facing today? Is it like Joseph? Does your journey also have a greater purpose than you might think? Sometimes the most difficult moments are precisely those who prepare us for something grand. So if this story has inspired you, subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and keep following content that strengthens your faith and your vision of life. Oh, and there is another amazing video appearing on the screen now. Don't miss it.